So not one word is said to the Joint Parliamentary Committee. Not only that, Sean Richard gives the evidence that AAM had an investment committee, had two committees that operated. By the way, it's a bit complicated. John, do you want to bring up? I'm sorry, I really apologise. I don't want to make this into diagrams and everything else, but there will be a full comprehensive report which comes out in our submission, which, by the way, will be something of a shock to the Minister for Finance. Here's the Minister for Finance, who's probably read the Joint Parliamentary Report, and says, Clarissa Villaverde, that name doesn't appear. That doesn't appear. Funny about that. Right, where are we? Oh, there we are. Okay. I'll just go through this if I can, just quickly. Remember, Astara Strategic Fund is where your money's gone. This is Astara Asset Management, and they are the managers of your money, because ASF has no resources apart from a legal compliance officer. So, it's got two committees. There's a management committee made up of Clarissa Villaverde, gee, that name keeps coming up. Jason Carter, I think it should be Carter, John, but anyway.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, poor old Jason was an employee of ASF and possibly was a dupe. But should be investigated and interrogated. Sean McIntyre, another young employee of ASF, and Sean Richard, the self-confessed criminal. But unusually, they had another committee. And Clarissa is on both of those. Funny about that. And this is the Investment Peer Working Group. I'm going to have a bit of a shot at this as to why Clarissa Villaverde was on the Investment Peer Working Group. She screened everything they did to make sure it complied with Australian regulatory law. Next one, John. Then this is where it gets really complicated but very interesting. Global Corporate Consultants became, they're registered in St Lucia, I think, from memory, and they became the trustee and custodian, the administration and the services for your money, which is passed through ASF under the management of AAM to Global Corporate Consultants. And that quote there, they are the ones holding the money, they are the ones investing the money with the instructions of the managers, which gives us comfort the money's not going to disappear. That was the evidence of Sean Richard in 2009. I mean, how cynical could Sean Richard be? Gives us comfort. The monies are not going to disappear. Next one, John. Okay. This tries to give you the outline of how this criminal structure worked. Trio Capital, RE, stands for Responsible Entity. Australian law is quite unusual in that it has an entity called Responsible Entities. Under law, they are responsible for the money and for the interest, that's your interest and your money, which passes through hedge funds like ASF, AAM, and then we come to an organisation called EMA International Limited, registered in the British Virgin Islands, who did an agreement with AAM, which is called Deferred Purchase Agreement. Next one, John. Thanks. Right. Now, EMA, it's called the Exploration Fund, was established by guess who? Well, Sean Richard. So Sean is working for the owner of Trio. He's the CEO of ASF, and he's also established the company internationally, which is managing your money. Hey, hasn't anyone heard about conflict of interest? Doesn't Trio have to be the custodian of your money and keep at arm's length the contractors who are investing your money? Well, apparently not. So Sean Richards explains that really EMA didn't really do anything, practically, but, and this is later on in his evidence, EMA, which is making decisions apparently about your money, is really administered by a company called Global Financial Managers, or GCSL. And GCSL purchases the products which flow back to you in the form of dividends. Okay, thanks, John. That's his evidence. So, we have the Exploration Fund, which was formerly Huntley Investment Fund, established in St Lucia on the 8th of November 2003. These times are all important because remember, 2004, the predecessor of Trio was purchased in Australia. Then the control of that is passed to Global Financial Managers, which is also registered in St Lucia, which is a subsidiary of GCSL. Just keep going. Yep. Okay. There are 25 hedge funds established under Trio. I won't go through them all, we don't have time. But I just want to give you an idea of what they are. Pacific Capital had $10.9 million in it, allegedly, in September 2009. There's a hedge fund called SBS Dynamic Opportunities. Global House, Aringa, Rarotonga, Cook Islands. And there's New Century Administration. Where do they get these names? Anyway, St Lucia. Keep going, John. Right, now we come to something interesting. I think I've been through this before and I do apologise for saying it again. But you invested in a fixed unit, not in shares. And when anyone tries to say to you that you made a bad mistake in doing that, you didn't. In 2008, the global financial crisis was destroying the value of the share markets. And fixed unit investments were good investments. And the appearance to you was right. It was a good investment. Provided one thing happened. When you purchased your units, they had a particular value. And unlike a share, that value doesn't go up and down according to a market. That was good, because in 2008, the share market was plunging. However, Trio had a critical responsibility. Trio would set the value of those units. So if you bought them at $1.60 a unit, if Trio revalued them 6 months later to 80 cents, you would lose half your money. I think most people's contracts were that on a 30-day notification, you could redeem your units. So pretty critically, the role that Trio played in the setting of the value of those units is really important to you, to the regulators, and of course, to people who are now trying to find out what happened with the crime. A man by the name of Rex Philpott was the chairman of Trio. And Philpott finally had the prudential responsibility to make sure it was all above board. The value of those units were dependent on the investments that GCSL was making of your money wherever it went. And the job that Trio had was to make sure, through the auditors, that those values were accurate. They weren't inflated, nor were they brought down. They had to be at arm's length from ASF to do that. If you'd have known, I'd suggest, if APRA had told you in 2008, hey, Trio, the watchdog of the value of your unit, is owned by the CEO of GCSL, who's actually giving the information back to Trio of where these investments are and how much they're worth, you'd say, sorry, that is wide open. Wide open to manipulation. Sean Richard was asked this very question. Did he know how GCSL, or where GCSL was investing the money, And did he know how GCSL formed the opinion or the information that those investments would keep the value of your units at their purchase price? He said, sure. I don't know really where the money went, but he said, we had someone in New York, words to the effect, we had someone in New York who was really well connected. And he was our advisor in regard to investments. His name is Charles Provini. I want to read out the investigation of Sean Richard verbatim for you so you can get a flavour of how this came about. They're talking about the investment committee of AAM, which is, under Australian regulation, the investment manager of your money. It says, who are the members of that investment committee? Sean Richard, the investment committee of AAM? Answer, yes. Question, yes. Sean Richard, in relation to the strategic fund, it is myself and Eugene. Eugene Liu was the operations manager of GCSL.